Healthcare and senior care is fraught with problems and challenges, but we're also seeing some amazing new clinical treatments and resources. This show will help illuminate and uncover the good, bad, the ugly in order to equip patients, families, and other healthcare providers. Welcome to Senior Care Confidential.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Brian.
We have a fantastic guest today. We've had a few shows where we've had guests talking about Parkinson's. And so today we're joined by Leisha Phipps, the Executive Director of the Dallas Area Parkinson Society.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. And so they kind of look at a holistic, we've had the Voice Project on. We've actually had our friends Mallory Spoons, over the Rock City Boxing. We had them on, like one of our first guests. And so Parkinson's keeps coming up kind of in my world too. We're seeing several new patients with diagnosis of Parkinson's. And what I learned from Leisha is that it is the fastest growing neurological disorder. Is it in the United States or in the world?
In the world.
In the world.
Yes.
Okay. And I know we talked about statistics before the show. They estimate somewhere around 10 million, but you guys think that that's probably a little bit low?
That's actually, that's the assumption, according to Parkinson's Foundation and some of the other big national organizations that do a lot of research, is that we really think it's much higher than that. We think that most likely there's quite a bit of undiagnoses going on. So that definitely contributes to that number.
So do we have ideas on how does somebody get Parkinson's disease?
Well, there's lots of theories, and there's of course lots of research. A lot of people initially think, oh, it must be genetic. It must be my grandfather had it or my uncle had this disease, so that's why I have it. That's not necessarily the case. The last study that the Parkinson's Foundation came out with showed that it's really less than about 10% of people with Parkinson's are linked to a genetic cause. So that leads to the discussion of environmental causes.
Yeah.
So that's definitely where there's a lot of emphasis and certainly a lot of research going into environmental factors.
Yeah, and they don't really know that too well. From what I'm understanding, there is a growing trend of research what's looking at, like we talked before, that there's a component of this where it's like a metabolic dysfunction, kind of like Alzheimer's being called diabetes type 3. There seems to be a trend of research that's pointing in that direction too, but there's also environmental things, the plastics, the what's in the air, all that stuff as well.
For sure. And certainly for Vietnam vets, I mean, we definitely know that, that Agent Orange is definitely, there's a strong correlation there. So.
Yeah. Okay. And so somewhere in the multi-millions, but it's also, they think it's going to double, right? In the next 25 years. I think I read by the year 2040, they're expecting the number of Parkinson cases to
Honestly,
double.
I don't know the specific number, but it's definitely skyrocketing.
ChatGPT said double.
All right, let's go with ChatGPT.
And it never lies. Yeah. So, but it's supposed to continue to grow considerably. And a part of it is because we have the baby boomer generation coming up. And correct me if I'm wrong, majority of diagnoses being made are like 65 plus, correct?
Correct. Yeah. That is correct. Yes.
So you don't usually see like the Michael J. Foxes being diagnosed in their 30s. It's usually someone that's in later years or 6 decade or longer.
Yes, that is correct.
And so what I've been reading just to prepare for this show is there's no two Parkinson patients are alike. So share with us just a little bit on that.
100%. You're exactly right. So oftentimes we have the stereotypical person who we associate with Parkinson's, someone who has a tremor. They might walk with a shuffle. They might have a bit of a stutter. We notice that their face, there might not be a lot of expression in their face. And certainly that's, a large percentage of the people with Parkinson's. But there's a lot of folks that don't have those typical symptoms. And sometimes those folks have a harder time getting diagnosed because they don't present in some of those most common symptomatic ways that others do. So a lot of the issues that people with Parkinson's face that sometimes either a neurologist or a general physician might not be aware of would be things such as constipation. A lack of smell is also really common for people with Parkinson's. There could even be some cognitive changes, not necessarily dementia, but just some changes in cognitions that either maybe their family or loved ones may have noticed. Fatigue is a really big symptom that is such a general symptom that, of course, we could chalk that up to anything.
Right.
So that's what can make it really difficult for some people with Parkinson's to be diagnosed accurately.
I'm curious about the smell thing. What is the link between smell and Parkinson's? Do we know where
That is a great question, and I do not have a good answer for you.
Okay.
What we do know is that a lot of people that are being diagnosed with Parkinson's have had a lack of smell for up to 10, sometimes 12 years. We had somebody come into our office just last week, and she said, "My husband's 58, and he was just diagnosed with Parkinson's, and the doctor said, 'Hey, do you have any problems with smell?' And he said, 'Well, I haven't been able to smell for the last 12 years.'" So that would put him at 46. Now, would he have been diagnosed at 46? Certainly, I'm not
Probably
here to
not
say that would have
likely.
been the case, but we are seeing that that's one of the early symptoms for a lot of people.
Yeah. And we were talking before too. It seems like I don't diagnose this. I just get to work with patients with it. But it seems like in most cases, my experience has been the diagnosis of Parkinson is a ruling. That was the word I was looking for. The ruling out or exclusion of other movement disorders or neurological disorders. And then we land on Parkinson's. So I would kind of imagine if the guy's 47 years old and his one lone symptom is lack of smell,
Right.
like here's sinus cleaner. Right?
Exactly. Yes. Which
Yeah.
would make sense. That would absolutely make sense that whether it's a neurologist or a GP is going to say, let's start here. So we oftentimes will see folks that go years with either being misdiagnosed, diagnosed, then undiagnosed, then diagnosed again.
Yes.
So for those folks that don't have some of the typical motor symptoms that we associate with Parkinson's, sometimes it's much more difficult for these folks to really get an accurate diagnosis. Now, there are some folks, they will go to a general neurologist and they will have them do kind of a standard test, walk down the hall, talk to me, shake my hand, and they will almost instantly be able to diagnose some folks with Parkinson's. But again, that's not necessarily the majority. There's still a lot of folks out there that really are struggling to get an accurate diagnosis.
Speaking of that, we know that most people are going to see their GPs, right? And this is where having movement specialists, like we are so blessed here in Dallas, we have amazing movement specialist doctors here that specialize in these type of things. But you had mentioned there's some research being done on a quick screen test that GPs, general practitioners, can use to help identify like earlier onset or, kind of canary in the coal mine type thing of, hey, this is probably warranted that we send you to a specialist.
Yes.
What kind of tests are they looking at for that?
So I can't go into details because it's not public.
Got it.
But certainly we do have one of our research physicians who's on our medical advisory board, who's done a lot of research into this and is really just trying to help provide another tool, just like you mentioned, Brian, for those GPs that are going to get a lot of these folks that come in and say, oh, did I just have a stroke or is this essential tremor? And so with an additional screening test, that will help some of these GPs and even general neurologists know that this might be someone who is a candidate for more testing so that we can rule out either Parkinson's or help lead them in a different direction.
Sure.
So let's say my client finds out he's got Parkinson's. He's been to his doctor. The doctor is referred to a specialist. He's gotten the diagnosis. He's been put on carbidopa-levodopa, which is a very common medicine for patients with Parkinson's. What next? How can DAPS, tell us about DAPS and how DAPS can help that Parkinson's client?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. We recommend, and most of the movement disorder experts that we work with will provide people with a brochure, a DAPS brochure, so that folks can contact our office. What we do is we find where folks are at that moment so that we can connect them with the resources that they need. So for a lot of folks, they are early on, they're not noticing many symptoms. It's really the disease is not impacting their life drastically. And that is wonderful. So what we're going to say is that is fantastic. Call us when you need us. If you want more information and if you're someone who really wants to do the research, come to us and we'll give you the best research and the best information so that you can be informed. We don't want to overwhelm you, but at the same time, we want you to keep living well. And the best way to do that is through exercise. All of our movement disorder experts that we work with will say that the one proven method to slow the progression of the disease is through exercise. So for example, when someone goes to see Brian and he discharges them, they could come to DAPS. So we've got locations all throughout the Metroplex so that it's very convenient. So that there's a community that's there waiting for someone to come in, be a part of an exercise group or a support group. get the educational components that they need, meet other people that might be in similar situations.
Yep.
That's
I like
great.
that you guys are, it's not just focused on the individual patient or client or member. You guys call them members, but it's not just focused on them, because we all recognize this is a scary time for family members too, the spouses,
Yes.
particularly because they're going to do Google research too, and they're going to see
Right.
what happens to my husband over the next 10, 15, 20 years. And so the fact that you guys have support services around them and some sort of classroom settings that you guys can help support them and give them some peace of mind and
Yes.
other people to connect with in camaraderie, that's great.
It really is important.
And I know that every Parkinson's client is not typical. They're all different, but an exercise plan, let's say when they come in, talk about what they do in that class.
Yeah, great question. So all of our exercise leaders have gone through various types of certification. A lot come with a background in yoga, which is great for things like balance and stretching and flexibility. All of ours have also been through, all of our exercise instructors have completed the Move, Laugh, Connect program. And it is a comprehensive approach to exercise because it brings in cognitive exercises with, of course, your physical exercises and community. So for
So
example,
it's called Move,
Laugh, Connect.
and Connect. Okay.
So this was created by the Sterlings, Dr. Charles Sterling and his wife Susan. They were longtime employees at the Cooper Aerobic Center, the Cooper Clinic here in Dallas, and so very well respected. When they retired, Charles was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and so together with their background in education and physical education, they came together and created the Move, Laugh, Connect program, which now our exercise leaders have been certified in and take that out to all of our community locations so that people with Parkinson's can experience all the benefits to getting exercise, not just physically, but cognitively and of course socially as well, because we know that all three of those components are really important to healthy living.
That's right. Wow, that's awesome. So you mentioned you have multiple locations, and these are, so your headquarters, or like administrative offices are right here in North Dallas.
Correct.
But you guys have space around the Metroplex, like McKinney and Plano and Garland.
That's right.
Denton, a couple other places where the classes are held in an offsite location, usually a church, where no matter where they live in the Metroplex, mostly, you guys are a short drive away from their homes.
Yes.
Yep.
And for those that might be a little bit further, we of course offer lots of virtual classes that our instructors, it's the same instructors, so they still come with the same experience, the same background in working with people with Parkinson's. And so for those folks that might be homebound, it's a really nice community to still be able to connect with others on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But yes, we cover Dallas, Denton, and Collin County. Of course, several locations in Dallas. We go all the way south to Duncanville, as far east as Garland, and then we go all the way up, of course, to McKinney and Plano and Denton as well.
And you guys just had your inaugural kickoff class for a new service line or exercise line you guys are kicking off. What is that?
Yeah, so our non-contact boxing class.
I love that you have to say
That's
non-contact.
I know it's comical. We've got to
We
be
promise
PC.
you're not beating each other up. Yeah, so
We
non-contact boxing class. Okay.
Yeah. So there's been lots of research done around the benefits of boxing for people with Parkinson's disease. And so DAPS is very fortunate in that one of our medical advisory board members, Dr. Mike Brach, who is a PT in the Dallas area, he actually created a curriculum that has specifically been taught to our exercise instructors. So they have now been certified so that our instructors can go and teach the boxing class to people with Parkinson's at one of our North Dallas locations on Walnut Hill. So yes, we just kicked it off last week. We had lots of enthusiasm, lots of veterans to these boxing classes, but also lots of new folks, and honestly, folks in different stages of the disease. So boxing has really proven to be very, very beneficial, like I said, for people with Parkinson's, everything from stamina to, of course, balance, flexibility, family. So, but the camaraderie part cannot be dismissed. That is still really one of the most important benefits that our classes offer.
I like the way we have a mutual colleague, Hillary Byatt, with the Parkinson Voice Project, and she was on a couple months ago, I guess, and she had a really great way of describing. It's not just with the voice thing; it's also muscle, right?
For sure.
But with the movement piece of it too, she, correct me if I'm wrong, she attributed or made an analogy like driving a car. We've been driving for so long, it feels automatic, right?
Yeah.
But if you're driving and you're having to place a phone call or whatever, like you have to be more intentional about adding certain things. And so she calls it movement with intention, because the automatic part of it is where the body has shrunk the movements to much smaller movements. And so these things like the yogas and the Tai Chis and the big and loud type LSVT type things, right? The choir that they do, or even the boxing, because it's an exaggerated motion, that's why it helps so much for patients with Parkinson's, because you're starting to move the automatic movements to become larger, is my understanding.
Yes. Great summary. And yes, Hillary is absolutely right. Yes. I couldn't say it any better than that.
Yeah. So as a female, say I were diagnosed with Parkinson's, I would not want to do boxing. I just don't think that would appeal to me, but I do know you've got dancing. That's correct. And so share the dance program, because for me, I would love that. I did that in high school and a little in college. And tell us about this.
Yes.
What you all provide.
So the Dance for Parkinson's is actually an international program, and it started in New York. And so we actually started this program before the pandemic, had to move it, of course, to virtual during the pandemic. And it was just in August when we were able to finally secure a location and an instructor to bring it back to Dallas. So what makes this such a unique and fun experience is that it really is different from the other exercise classes. For one, our instructor has actually been trained and is certified through the Dance for PD program out of New York. He actually comes with a background in Broadway and musicals and a little bit of everything. And everyone loves Domingo. So what's nice about it
He's
is
even
that
got an awesome name.
He's got a great name. He's got a terrific name.
Who's your dance teacher? Domingo.
Right. Well, when I lived in New York City, this is off. But when I lived in New York City, I worked out like 5 times a week, and I did dance, and it was a Broadway dancer that taught this. It was aerobics and dance at the same time, but we did the jazz hands and we did all kinds of stuff, but it really is fun. And it would be so much fun for these Parkinson's patients, because I'm sure a lot of it is unknown. What is my journey going to be like?
Yes.
And just to have this that you could celebrate where you are.
Yes.
I mean, there's nothing just that would be more fun for me. I would sign up with.
How often do they have these dance classes?
So right now it's just once a week.
Okay.
We hope that as the class grows, we can maybe add a second class. So right now it is on Mondays at 12:30 at Westminster Presbyterian Church.
Okay.
That is in North Dallas. But it's a wonderful location and a very fun class for both care partners and persons with Parkinson's.
That's what I was
cool.
going to ask, if the caregiver can take the class too.
Absolutely. We really encourage that.
Okay.
We really encourage that. Sometimes we've got some people, they'll just bring a friend, and because friends love it too. So it doesn't have to be your spouse. Bring a partner. It's really fun. There's some imagery and just some different techniques that are used in the class that just make it a little bit unique and a little bit different.
Yeah.
But we get rave reviews, and it's really a dynamic group of people.
I think that in those residential care homes would be so wonderful to be able to provide that. That's
not something you guys do Zoom. That's a live and in-person one.
That is a live and in-person one. So until we can actually get all the equipment and all the logistics together, we would love to be able to take it so that it's a hybrid class.
Y'all need to do that. We
would love that.
Exceptional.
We are a small staff, so getting the
we're asking a lot, yeah.
But it's a great goal, and I love your thinking. I love the direction.
Yeah,
yes.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Okay, so and then quickly on the support groups, I know that you have every branch where you go has support groups, and tell me how that can benefit the partner or the caregiver or the spouse.
Good question. So yes, for care partners, which we also include adult children of someone with Parkinson's, who might be the primary caretaker or the primary care partner in a situation. So we encourage whoever that might be to attend any of our support groups. They're helpful for several different reasons. Folks come to us in various stages of the disease. Some come to us when they are their hands are up and they're saying, I don't know what else to do. I don't know how else to help, but the disease is advancing and I'm kind of at my wit's end.
Yep.
And then we also get folks that say, my spouse was just diagnosed a few months ago. I don't know where to begin. So fortunately, all of our leaders come with some pretty extensive and very experienced background when it comes to dealing with chronic illnesses and managing chronic diseases such as Parkinson's. So our facilitators are able to help not just create a setting for people to get to know one another and connect, but also provide some really essential tools so that people can navigate the various elements of the disease when they are outside of that setting.
Sure.
Our communities really become strong because people get to know one another and really care for each other, and they build that network even outside of our groups that meet. So we really always encourage people to find a support group. We offer them all over, as you mentioned, both in person and virtually as well.
And you guys have symposiums and other educational seminars, because I know you have a large group of physicians as on your medical board of directors. And I know that they're actively involved in doing research and they write for your newsletter. They conduct symposiums or lectures, I guess, throughout the year.
So we will coordinate with them to come and oftentimes speak for us. Yes, on various topics. So it could be anything from sleep to, we just had a gastrointestinal doctor that came and talked about the brain-gut connection that Brian, you referenced earlier. So we really try to make sure that we're providing comprehensive information because, like you said, there's so much research.
Yeah,
whether
it can be overwhelming.
It can be overwhelming.
There's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, but you guys also have a nutritionist, I learned.
We do.
That has, she conducts, is it a weekly class as well?
No, actually it's just quarterly.
Quarterly, okay.
And it is virtual. So we get folks from all over the country that Zoom in. And so our next one will actually be on Friday, April the 11th, which is World Parkinson's Day.
Wow.
So
that's
April
great.
is Parkinson's Awareness Month. And so Faye will be providing a program for us virtually during our Ask the Nutritionist program on World Parkinson's Day.
I'm going to watch that.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
It's really, she picks a different topic each season, and it's usually related to whether it's summer, it might be around dehydration. If it's around the holidays, it's around how do you manage your meds when you're eating constantly and there's sweets all over. So she makes sure that all of her topics are both research-based, but they're also pertinent to that particular time of the year.
So go back to that. So you mentioned sweets around the holidays and meds. Are there interactions that we see with the meds and sweets?
For some people.
Okay.
So what she really talks about is how you can prepare and how you can really manage those so that you can still indulge a little bit, but you can do that in a way that it won't necessarily completely throw off you and your medication.
I did not know that there was an interaction there. It makes sense, but I never even considered it. Yeah.
And again, for some people, some people will tell us when it comes to taking their medication and protein, they don't see any change whatsoever. So it really all varies. So she comes from a holistic perspective and making sure that, are you well hydrated?
Yeah.
Are you having all of your leafy greens? So that way you can still cheat a little bit here and there during those holidays if you're doing all the other things well, if you're exercising regularly, if you're staying hydrated, if you're getting a fairly good night's sleep, etc.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's funny, the common denominator with all of our guests and different disease processes, home health, home care, hospice, it's exercise. How important it is.
There's a book by a physician by the name of Gabrielle Lyon. Have you heard of her yet?
No.
Lyon. And I think she's out of Houston, if I'm not mistaken. And so I kind of follow some anti-aging just because I want to be as strong as I can for as long as I can. And so she's a physician who I came across several months ago. And she's got a book out called Forever Strong. And so you'll see a lot of people, I call them like levers, but if you boil it all down, because there are people who go really crazy. They're spending millions of dollars a year on supplements and all these crazy blue light therapies, red light therapies, whatever. And you're like, there's just so much. But there's like five things, 4 or 5 things. If you just do these things, it's like proper sleep, proper hydration, proper nutrition, exercise, whatever, meditation, like these are like the major dials. And then you can optimize each one of those. But where she talks about is she calls muscle a safeguard to health. And so we teach a lot in some rehab hospitals and hospitals around here. We're actually talking about hospital-acquired frailty, which we've talked about on this show a bunch. But that led me down a whole other path of how important muscle mass really is. Like, yes, I get it. There's an aesthetic part to muscle mass. But when you start looking at that with an older body, so I'm in my 40s, I was getting my 50s and 60s and beyond, the muscle that we create, it's almost like it's a bank account. And so like a retirement account. And if my retirement account has lots of muscle in it, when I have that fall or I have that flu virus, whatever, I'm going to take some withdrawals out of my bank account.
Yes.
But if I have a large enough bank account, it's easier to put the money back in. And so that's kind of where she doesn't relate it that way. There's other people who relate it that way, but she's a whole book on the importance of maintaining muscle size and muscle mass as we get older. And so I am very sensitive to the exercise component. There's so much, like there's details on that we don't need to talk about on this show, but it is crucial, especially for people with chronic illnesses. And I think we think of it in terms, I don't know that we ever take it that far to realize how much muscle actually improves, like all of these other things, your heart health, your gut health, your lung health, your cognition, movement, balance, all those kind of things. And so I love the fact that you guys offer classes around the area, the non-contact, I still laugh at that, non-contact boxing, the dance class. I think that's amazing. I think that's a really cool idea to do for couples. Yeah.
I love that. So speaking of exercise and walking, you all have an event coming up.
Yes.
And tell us about it. It's the Dallas Annual Walk for Parkinson's.
Yes. Thanks for asking. Yes, we are partnering with our friends at Edgemere Senior Living, and this will be our first annual Walk for Parkinson's. This is an outreach event so that folks all over the Metroplex know here's an opportunity to come out for one morning and enjoy some new people, get a little bit of information, know that you're not alone, and pick up some resources and some services so that if or when it's something that you or a loved one might need, you've got that information. This will be a fun event. We've got entertainment, live entertainment. We'll have, of course, some food. We'll have some great vendors, like I mentioned, with some good information for folks to learn about. So we're really excited. We'll be providing a shuttle service as well. Of course, it's free. And so we really hope that folks will come out and enjoy just a day being around other people as that reminder that we are not alone.
So for people to walk, is there a fee?
No fee.
Wow.
No fee at all.
But donations are accepted.
We would love donations, of course. Yes. So we are asking for a $20 minimum donation for folks to receive our signature t-shirt, which is actually, our artwork has been designed by one of our DAPS members.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And he has been living, he is a very accomplished artist, and he has been living well with Parkinson's since 2017. And he has given us the rights to use his artwork, which is 2 tulips, because tulips are the international symbol for Parkinson's disease. And of course, April, as we mentioned, is Parkinson's Awareness Month. So you'll be seeing lots of red tulips, and our t-shirts will have a red tulip on the back.
That is awesome.
That's crazy.
And then
That's
you've
awesome.
got something else coming up. You've got a Lifetime Achievement Award luncheon.
That's right. Yeah. So every year we host the Lifetime Achievement Award that is actually in honor of Kenneth Cooper, Dr. Kenneth Cooper of the esteemed clinic. And so each year we choose a different recipient that is a local leader who represents some of the values or the experiences that some folks with Parkinson's might experience. So this year we're really excited because the mayor of Dallas will be our recipient whose mother has Parkinson's disease. And he has been he's played a very active role as a care partner. And so he'll be speaking a little bit about that sandwich generation, being an adult who has a parent with a chronic illness and also with young children. And we know that that's a population that is really growing, specifically in Dallas. We found that out just from some of the recent research. So we're really excited to be able to honor him. And so he will be our recipient at Highland Park United Methodist Church on Wednesday, April 30th. And that is also a free event.
That's
to
going
the
to be
public.
wonderful. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. So how do people get in touch with you? I know if they see a movement specialist, your brochures and flyers are probably plentiful in those offices. But for people who haven't seen one yet, or they're just trying to get some information, maybe their GP has alerted them of, hey, we need to do some testing and they want to learn some more. How do people contact you?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. So they can always go to our website, and it's very, very simple. DAPS, DAPS.org. Right there, you will see on our homepage an opportunity to sign up for our newsletter. That's really the best form of information because you'll receive that on a monthly basis. And so that provides a list of our schedule with all of our classes, our support groups, the educational programs. So we'll provide a little bit of everything. So that's really a good place to start. And it helps people to kind of figure out, okay, what is it where am I in this journey and how involved do I want to get? Or how remote do I want to stay? How can I still get information, but do that at a pace that is comfortable for them?
Yep. Very good. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming.
you.
This is amazing.
It has been amazing. And I will be there on the 12th to walk. I would love to do. Is it the 12th?
Thank you. Yes.
I would
Saturday
love
the
to do
12th.
that.
So
That
the
will be fun.
two events coming up, April 12th at Edgemere.
Yes,
for
correct.
the walk, and then April 30th at
Highland Park Methodist Church.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's for the award for the mayor.
That's right. So it's a lovely luncheon and kind of an inspirational time for folks to come together and be inspired and see other folks that are really living well with Parkinson's.
That's
great.
awesome.
That's
Thank
great.
you
Thank
so
you.
much again. Thank you for
Thank
all you
you.
do
Yeah,
for
great to
those
have you.
Parkinson's patients.
Thank you both very, very much. I appreciate it.